we got to talk Thursday Night Football here off the top, the solo recap. It's back after Food Poisoning Gate 2025, and what a game to return to here for the solo recap. We got Seahawks 38, Rams 37, the game of the year. I mean, it sure felt like that to me. What an electric football game we got to watch tonight on Thursday night. Amazon Prime, shout out. I mean, what a night. What a night of football here. It was so much fun. The game had twists and turns. It was dramatic. I can't even sit here and recount everything that happened and the many twists and turns this game took. But it was absolutely fantastic. Two true great teams in the NFL. You had a moment there during the game. I know you out there, you had that moment. I had that moment. Certainly all the boys in the production team, we all had the moment together where we're sitting there saying, yep, same old Sam Darnold, this Seahawks team. I don't know. There it is. See, Sam's goofing the game away. And then what happens? Football happens. This Seattle team that is extremely well built and dangerous in multiple phases comes back, wins the game. They take it to overtime, and then they win the game on a 2-point conversion. Shout out to Eric Saubert for the 2-point conversion. Guy's not a mainstay in the offense whatsoever. He catches a 2-point conversion for this team. They win the football game. Incredible stuff by the Seattle Seahawks, and one hell of a night by the Los Angeles Rams as well. There's so much to talk about there. We'll get to that because we do always start with the winners here, and we certainly have to start with the Seattle Seahawks, winners of this football game. Man, where do we even want to begin? At one point, Next Gen Stats had the win probability as low as 2.7% with 9 minutes left, trailing 30-14 in their comeback win over the Los Angeles Rams. How about that? That I think really tells the story of this Seattle Seahawks team, not just tonight, which we'll get to in a second, but the whole season. I think it's a very resilient team. I think it's a very gritty team. I think it's a well-coached team, and it's a group that can sting you in multiple ways. And you felt that tonight. You certainly felt that by the defense holding the Rams in the fourth quarter, especially to a bunch of scoreless drives when this team could essentially do no wrong at several parts of the game. You felt that. You felt it on offense. Sam Darnold had some moments as well. Again, he made plenty of mistakes. 4 bad sacks in the game, 2 interceptions. Both of them just got fooled by Chris Shula and the coverage operation there from the Rams, the Rams defense, but still came back firing, kept pushing the ball down the field, and made some of those big plays. 2 other more subtle areas you felt it as well. Man, Rashid Shaheed's punt return is kind of what started it all. Shaheed has definitely not necessarily made the consistent impact as a receiver for this team. In fact, he caught 0 passes on the night, just 1 target. Cooper Kupp once again took the step back forward as the number 2 receiver after running fewer routes than Rashid Shaheed last week. That was not a trend that held. However, Shaheed not only had a 31-yard run in this game, he also had the score on the punt return. He has made a big impact for this team on special teams. That has definitely been the case, and he's just essentially been the direct replacement for Torrey Horton. Torrey Horton was the third receiver, deep threat, made splash plays every now and again, and he was also their returner as well, and that's just who Shaheed has been for this team. He's not overtaking Cooper Kupp's role. He's a guy that is a desperation play only in fantasy football. Thought that last week, him running more routes than Cooper Kupp, maybe that was going to change things, but that's not what happened in this game at all. It was once again Cooper Kupp running a route on 92% of the dropbacks, behind only, of course, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was on the field the entire night on passing downs. Shaheed was back down at a 64% route participation on the night. So definitely not a step forward at all for Rashid Shaheed, but showed up big for this team. The other area that was a little bit different for this football team, and certainly something that we could talk about from a fantasy football perspective, you're going to hear Boone reverse jinx curse these Seahawks running backs much later on in the show. And oh man, what a night for the Seattle Seahawks running backs, especially Kenneth Walker, just showing up with the big plays. 100 yards on the ground for Kenneth Walker, 64 yards through the air on 3 targets, 46-yard long reception, 55-yard long run for Kenneth Walker, made the big plays. He scored on the long touchdown as well. Huge, massive night for Kenneth Walker, his best outing of the entire season. And yes, of course, the easy joke is he's crushing in your consolation brackets, but there are some teams, that can make it with Kenneth Walker. Like enough already with these jokes about the consolation bracket. I know I make them sometimes too, but listen, it's one pick. One pick doesn't ruin your fantasy season. Certainly not if it's like the 4th or 5th round with Kenneth Walker. So there's a very real chance that people, adjusted around Kenneth Walker, maybe put him on the bench for a while, picked up somebody off the waiver wire, the whole deal. And yeah, again, the easy joke is the consolation bracket thing. I get it. It is funny, of course. Like I said, I make those jokes, but there's also times when that player is still live for playoff teams. And it would have taken you some real stones or real desperate situation here for you to play Kenneth Walker in this one. But if you did, shout out to you. This is what the Seahawks, I think, have been missing this year, is a rushing attack that is dangerous to complement their passing game. And their passing game, honestly, between these two Rams performances, haven't been great. Darnold hasn't been firing out all cylinders. He's looked a little more confused at times. He's made more mistakes. He's looked more sped up, the whole deal. But if they can kind of calm things down with the rushing game, that certainly helps. And you felt tonight that was able to happen. They were able to take a beat with some of the, Zach Charbonnet, just steady Eddie runs. I know people, they can't stand Zach Charbonnet. I get it, but he's a useful back for this team. Sorry about it. He's a useful back for this team. He was useful for the team tonight. He scored a touchdown, had some receptions as well. So definitely a good night for this entire Seattle Seahawks backfield. On the night, they had a 47.8% rushing success rate. That was better than the Los Angeles Rams tonight. They had a rushing explosive rate that was certainly better than the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams had 0 explosive runs on the night. The Seattle Seahawks had a 12% explosive rushing rate. And again, you just did not get this very often from the Seattle Seahawks this season. And it's something that has been missing. No question has been missing for this team all season long. This 47.8% rushing success rate for the Seattle Seahawks, 4th best of the season. The only other games that were better were week 12 against the Titans, week 10 against the Cardinals, and all the way back in week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers. So, I think it's a promising sign. Is it going to continue? Is it going to be sustainable? I don't know. 0.32 EPA per rush, by the way, also the best outing for the Seattle Seahawks run game of the entire year. So again, is that going to continue next week? Next week, they do get the Panthers. It's not the worst matchup in the world. I think the Panthers are probably a better run defense than they are pass defense, but the run defense has absolutely fallen off of late. There's no question about that. So, if you make it to the next round of your fantasy football playoffs, I do think we'll have Kenneth Walker conversations. I think we'll have Zach Charbonnet conversations. It's just about, can Zach Charbonnet be that steady Eddie guy in both the run and pass game? And especially, can Kenneth Walker hit those explosives? Because when he hits those explosives, that just changes the complexion of this offense that usually has only gotten explosive plays from the downfield pass game. If you can get both things firing, that's when this team gets really dangerous. So again, we'll have conversations about Walker and Charbonnet in this run game all throughout the course of, previewing week 17 for you guys. But definitely coming off tonight, I want to hope that this can continue for the Seattle Seahawks, because I think it's the differentiating factor between them being a team that is really good. They're one of the best teams in the NFL, no question about it. But can they make a playoff run? Or can they be that type of operation? That is what the big deal is. Good stat here from Mina Kimes. According to Next Gen Stats, 4 of 5 of Darnold's throws with the lowest completion probability all happened on that overtime drive. Yeah, Darnold was nails. And I know, like I said, I know everybody's ready to make the jokes. Darnold in big games. Well, that was That was a big ass game, and Darnold had a fantastic ending to it. Wasn't perfect, no question, had a fantastic ending to it. Other performances of note, A.J. Barner, who, again, ran as many routes as Cooper Kupp here. He was super involved. He's on the field every single snap for the most part. He scored a touchdown here. He had 4 catches, for 49 yards. Big night for A.J. Barner. Yeah, on the field for 93.7% of the snaps. He's just out there all the time. Pretty incredible performance for him. If you had to stream him, I did not stream him in the one league that I have him, so I'm furious at myself. Not the last time that I'm going to be furious at myself on this podcast, but that is when we get to the LA Rams. Last note of the Seahawks, defense is awesome. I mean, that defense is just fantastic. I know they had some, you're gonna give up some plays to the Rams offense. That's gonna happen. But for the most part, they showed up in big plays and big moments. Great stats here from @NFL_researcher. Seahawks defense tonight, according to Next Gen Stats. First and third quarter, 26.9% pressure rate, 7 pressures overall. 38.5 blitz rate. Fourth quarter and overtime, 40% pressure rate despite a 16% blitz rate. They had 10 pressures in the fourth quarter and overtime, 7 pressures in the first and third quarter. So yeah, absolutely. It was a great night for the Seahawks defense. They were definitely a tough unit to play going against that Rams offense in fantasy, but I'm pretty conservative, honestly, when it comes to making decisions about fantasy defenses. I end up just playing good defenses, even when they're in tough matchups. Doesn't always work, but yeah. So Sam Darnold, last note here from Next Gen Stats, when he held the ball longer than 2.5 seconds, Darnold completed 13 of 20 for 194 yards and both scores. Against single high safety looks, Darnold was 11 of 17 for 140 yards and a touchdown. It really was when they had the sim pressures and just had like Kobe Turner right in the lane that Darnold is throwing into. That is what will fool Darnold. But when he has some time, when he can, scan the field and make those decisions, you saw some really good stuff from Darnold tonight. So he's Sam Darnold, man. He's gonna be up and down. I don't think he is some new person or a new guy in Seattle. I think it's a system that really fits him well, a system he's really comfortable with, but you're going to have those up and down moments from him. We'll see how that continues to play out over the course of the playoff push here for Seattle, because as of right now, they are the number 1 seed in the NFC. They clinched a playoff berth. The Athletics playoff predictor still gives the Rams a 57% chance to win the division. That is because, to my estimation, Seahawks 30%. My guess there is that the Seahawks play the Panthers and the Niners down the stretch, 2 teams that, as we're showing here right now, are the Niners, if the season ended today, would be a wild card team. The Panthers are 7-7. They're in the hunt. They're competing with the Bucs for the NFC South. Meanwhile, the Rams go to Atlanta to play the Falcons next week, and then they finish it up in week 18 with the Arizona Cardinals. So easier schedule for the Rams, as I'm sure that's why. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch this division race, of course. It's going to be super fun in the NFC West. There's no question about that. Okay, let's get to the LA Rams here, who, played certainly well enough to win this game. Had some hiccups on offense in the fourth quarter that allowed the Seahawks to get back into it. But for the most part, this offense was absolutely lights out. Matthew Stafford on the evening, over 457 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 110.7 passer rating. He was electric. Matthew Stafford becomes the 4th player in NFL history to have at least 8 games with 3+ passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a season. That's been the story for Stafford all season long. Why he has been a QB1 in fantasy, because he just keeps putting these touchdowns up. Like I said, I was going to get mad at myself one more time. Guys, I overthought it. I hate myself for this. Usually I've been saying all week, I have one team with Matthew Stafford. It's a salary cap team that went studs and duds, and Stafford has been saving me. I think I might have brought this up on the show. Been saving me as my QB1 all season long. And I really, my whole plan all week was just to lock him in as my QB1 and be like, I'm just set it, forget it. He's been so good. I know it's a tough matchup, but the game could be high scoring. He throws all these touchdowns. I'm just going to not overthink it. Well, I'm only human. Just because I host a fantasy football podcast does not mean I'm perfect. Far from it. I make plenty of mistakes on my own teams. I make plenty of mistakes in analysis. I make mistakes on my own teams too. I did that tonight. Purdy was my backup on the team. Purdy could still have a good game on Monday night. Totally possible against that Colts banged up secondary. So maybe it looks fine, but I'm pretty pissed that I swapped out Purdy. I put him in there over Stafford. Made that mistake tonight. Hopefully it doesn't cost me, but We'll see. I'm mad about it because, man, Stafford was awesome in this game. He just pushing the ball down the field, in breaking routes. At one point, the Rams' 13 personnel usage was, I had this from Nathan Jonke of Pro Football Focus. It was one of the most heavily used 13 personnel games of all time. And it was in ways that you might not expect either, because they were like throwing passes down the field. Yeah, this is the stat from Nathan Jonke. The Rams have now used, this was at 11:10 p.m. Eastern, so pretty late in the game, used 13 personnel in 47 plays, the most by a team in a game the last 20 years and potentially ever. Yeah, they were just running so much 13 personnel without Davante Adams out there. Sometimes it was Puka Nacua as the ISO receiver. Sometimes it was Kanata Munfield. Interesting player, Munfield, by the way. He looks pretty good out there. Looks certainly functional for a 7th round rookie receiver. They had a great note on the broadcast that Davante Adams has really been mentoring him, like kind of taking him under his wing. Munfield looks like a pro, so like a deep dynasty name to monitor. Maybe somebody I'll take a look at more in the offseason. But yeah, again, it was, whether it was 13 personnel, whether they spread the field, Stafford could almost do no wrong here. Stafford just diced up the Seahawks against the blitz. Per NGS, 8 of 13 for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was great under center, 12 of 18 for 177 yards, all 3 touchdowns under center. That's what Stafford's been doing all season long. His total passing yards, most in the game, are his most in a game since at least 2016. So it was definitely an up and down night at times, but the highs were high, baby. So that's the high flying act that you play when you're Matthew Stafford and this Rams offense. And man, the highs, like I said, it makes it all worth it. Electric stuff from Stafford in this game. I still think he's the MVP, even though he loses this game, or at least should be one of the top 2 names mentioned. Look, there's not for the Rams, but for everybody else, there's 3 more games left in the season. So the conversation is still open. It's not settled or anything like that, but he certainly played like an MVP caliber player tonight, and somebody that is a set it and forget it quarterback 1 in fantasy. I forgot it and I didn't set it, and I'm really, really mad at myself about it. So I'll think about it a few more times tonight. Then I'll go to bed and I'll just flush it down the toilet and think about something else. Elsewhere on the Rams offense, the backfield split continues for this team. By the way, if you're looking, but it's not as drastic as it was early on in the game. But at one point, the plays run were just so much in favor of the Los Angeles Rams. They were, in the first half especially, they were just on the ball all night long. So some of the, overall volume stats are going to look much crazier for the Rams than it is for the Seahawks. But, just a minor note here on that one. But again, elsewhere on the Rams, the backfield split continued here for this team. To be expected, we know that's going to be the deal. They're going drive by drive with these guys. Kyren Williams ends up with 26 touches, 15 touches for Blake Corum. It was a pretty much 63% of the touches went to Kyren. 37% went to Blake Corum. That's about what it's been. Kyren ends up with more yards from scrimmage. Blake Corum ends up with more touches inside the 2-yard line. Again, that's kind of been the way it is. It's mostly just what situations are you out there, but Kyren is definitely out there in the 2-minute and the hurry up. So that is why he always ends up with more touches than Corum does. I'm curious actually in overtime if it was, it was still 2 touches to Blake Corum and 1 to Kyren Williams in overtime. So they split that drive as well. That's what this backfield is. You continue to play these guys. Corum as a flex. I think Williams is more of a RB2. You're kind of touchdown hunting with both, but you didn't get touchdowns for these guys tonight. But Corum got a touchdown. You don't get touchdowns for these guys every single time. Although Corum is on quite a streak of it. Williams maybe not as much, but you're totally fine doing that because this is one of, if not the best offenses in the NFL. In the passing game, a monster Puka Nacua night. Puka Nacua has had a weird week. Let's put it at that. Some questionable appearances on a live stream. if you're on a kick stream, you're in the wrong place. Don't be going on a kick stream, okay? Please, enough. But it was weird after the game too for Puka. He tweeted, "Can you say I was wrong? Appreciate you, Stripes, for your contribution. LOL." He immediately deleted the tweet. He got that phone out pretty fast though, guys. I don't know if you're on Twitter or you're paying attention to this, but he posted that pretty quickly after that game was over. One of the many not great stuff that Puka was involved with this week, or that came out of that stream. One of them was telling the people, I don't know who they are, on the stream that he believes that officials just call penalties to get on the TV. So that happened, and that's why the tweet was made after. Anyways, Brett Coleman, great observation. McVay's face when answering questions about Puka might be the angriest I've ever seen him about anything ever. And yeah, I mean, pretty good reason, justifiable to be angry at Puka Nacua after some of the stuff this week. And it's just stuff like, you're Sean McVay. You don't want to be asked about that crap after a game. So yeah, super frustrating. Bizarre week for Puka, to say the least. Bizarre is probably not the right word for it. But his play on the field, unbelievable. Unreal football player. 12 catches, 16 targets, 7 first downs, 225 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. If you went against Puka Nacua tonight, you got 40.5 fantasy points dropped on your head in half PPR Yahoo Standard. Sorry. I mean, it might be it for you if you went up against Puka Nacua. But, man, it was all the things that you're used to seeing from Puka Nacua. Big in-breakers, 3 long catches, including 1 touchdown. Catch and run in breaking routes, those big dig routes, posts maybe, depends on watching them on film, what you chart them as, some designed underneath stuff, the quick slant to the touchdown. Man, he had one down. I mean, the one where he goes over his head. It's crazy to me that Puka Nacua and I had a conversation after his rookie season where he talked about like the one thing he wanted to get better at was just being tougher at the catch point, not making mistakes there. He's made a lot of improvements there. He's one of the best in the league now in the contested catch game. He's so reliable. So yeah, just a great football player that had a great night here. 68 yards after contact in this game, a season high for him, his most since week 17 of last year against the New York Giants on per Next Gen Stats. 8 of 12 targets on in-breaking routes for a career high 178 yards in both of his touchdowns. So yeah, just a monster on those in-breaking routes. That's what this offense is all about. That is one thing I will say coming out of it too, is just when you hear folks like myself, others in the industry, like obsess about in-breaking routes and quarterbacks that can work over the middle of the field and get frustrated about the quarterbacks that don't and the offenses that don't. This is why. This is how you win in the NFL today. The Rams showed you this evening what it's like. Look, I know they didn't win the game, but bear with me. This is where the NFL is won and lost now in the passing game. It's over the middle of the field. This is where you're getting these explosives, daggers, digs, in-breaking, the whole deal. This is where it is. And Stafford is great at throwing there, fearless at throwing there. They have receivers that work over there. They even have Devontae Adams in this game. It's just, it's huge. It's everything in the NFL today. So I just think you're working with one hand tied behind your back if you're a quarterback, if you're a passing game, if you have receivers that don't go over the middle of the field. It's just, it's so crucial. And I think you saw both teams all season and tonight show you where they're hunting those explosives in those areas. So yeah, I mean, you just look at the passing charts on this one, you'll see a lot of dots over the middle of the field. So that's one just big, more meta takeaway. Final thing to say here about the Los Angeles Rams. If you played Colby Parkinson in fantasy, I'm sorry. I played Colby Parkinson in fantasy, and I feel bad for myself, really. Streamed him at tight end. Ran a route on 72.5% of the dropbacks. Played on 85% of the snaps, most of any skill position player. So I know it doesn't do you anything in your route participation and your snap rate league. He's crushing it there, not crushing it in your real fantasy lineups. When I don't consume a lot of other fantasy content during the week, during the regular season at all. it definitely dawned on me when you see every fantasy analyst tweeting about Colby Parkinson. Like, oh God, was he like that guy that everybody talked about this week? Yeah. That guy when it's like a player like Colby Parkinson, who's just nice, like a nice solid role player for the Rams, but not a special talent by any means. Hasn't been like a consistently productive player at any point during his NFL career. That guy always flops. Just like, it's stupid analysis, but it is what it is. So if you play Colby Parkinson per any of our like podcast discussions, I apologize. That one's on us, and yeah, we gotta be more aware about what's going on out there and the overhype of like I said, a nice role playing tight end. But I did play him in fantasy, streamed him over a guy like Jake Ferguson, and I'm probably gonna end up regretting that one. We'll see if it costs me that matchup. So, all right, that was a longer one than usual, but listen, I didn't do the Sunday recap or the Monday recap because of food poisoning gate. So a little overdue to get some takes off. And man, this game was worth the wait. It was electric, super fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope all of your fantasy dreams came true tonight.